Dogs can bring an insane amount of joy to your life. A dog's not just a pet, they're quite literally your companion for life. But that companion can be extremely hard to be around if they're not trained right. New dog owners find it very difficult to train puppies because, well, they're just too darn cute to command. But it's very important to train them as well as you can, so they can live a happy and fulfilling life. In this video, we'll be going over 10 tips that will help you train your puppy to become the perfect dog. Number 10, start with the basics. When you first get a puppy, you might find yourself going a little overboard with the commands. We want our puppies to do everything we ask them to, and although they will try, it can be hard for their tiny little brains to process too much information at once. If you try to cram too many commands into their brains, they might just end up rejecting it all and not listening to anything at all. That's the opposite of what we'd want. So pace yourself. Make sure that you're starting with the very basics of all commands. A general sit, roll over, wait, stuff like that should suffice for the time they're tiny puppies. That too, very slowly. Move over to the more complicated commands once they're a little older and can process them easier. This will allow them to understand everything you're asking them to do and carry out the necessary actions properly. Even though this seems like the longer route, it'll actually save you time because you won't have to go over the same commands over and over again. Number 9, sort out the business right away. Most people think that only cats can be potty trained, and that's not really the case. You can potty train your dogs too, if you get right to it when they're still little puppies. This will require some work on your part, but it's doable. Once a puppy is around 6 to 8 weeks old, it has control over its bladder and can be potty trained. After that point, you should start taking them outside after every meal to a designated spot in the yard so they can relieve themselves, making it a routine and stick to it. Every time they go in the right spot, give them a treat and praise them right after. That way, they'll associate going there as a positive activity, and it'll eventually become a habit. It's important to remember here that even if your puppy has a few accidents inside the house, don't go on trying to punish or scold them because it'll only make matters worse. The puppy might get too scared to relieve itself in your presence or start having even more frequent accidents around the house. Just clean the area up, leave none of the scent behind, and get right back into the yard routine until the puppy gets it. Number 8, encourage a jump-free hello. You might know your puppy's intentions when they rush over to you to say hi while jumping around everywhere, but not everyone will. If you encourage or praise them for jumping up to say hi, it'll become a primary way they say hi to everyone. This can be problematic if guests come over or while you take them out for walks because they'll want to jump up on everyone to say hi. While most people might react to it by saying hi back, others will not be thrilled to have a random dog jumping up on them and might react in a way that could harm your dog instead. So it's best not to encourage jumping from the start. If they jump up, just turn away and ignore them until they settle down. Get on the ground with them and shower them with pets as hello instead. Number 7, set up house rules from the get-go. Puppies are far too cute to say no to. That's why most people can't even fathom telling their puppies not to jump on a sofa or the table while dinner's being served or just about anything. Only when the puppy grows up to a full dog size do they say anything to them. That's going to confuse the dog in the long run and potentially make them sad because they'll wonder why they've suddenly changed. Instead, set up the house rules from the get-go. Figure out where you want your full-sized version of them not to go and make sure the puppy knows them too. There's no need to be overly harsh, just set the rules and stick to them to avoid confusion and possible heartbreak later. Number 6, use positive reinforcement. Just because dogs can act tough doesn't mean they are tough on the inside too. A lot of people use extreme negative reinforcement like shoving a dog's face into something they did wrong or scolding them too much. These things won't actually stop the dog from acting out again. It might even make the behavior more frequent. Use positive reinforcement when training and ignore them when they do something wrong. It'll make them want to chase the praise and do what you appreciate instead. Number 5, save the chewing for the chew toys. It's not fun to walk out only to find your favorite chews have been entirely chewed up by your dog. Now, chewing is something dogs have to do. It's part of their nature. So you can't exactly keep a dog from chewing, but you can train them to chew the right thing instead. To do this, get lots of interesting chew toys. Fill some up with treats and play games with the others. That way, the toys would be a higher reward item to chew compared to a shoe, and they'll want to go for that instead. Number 4, keep a balance. Dogs are highly intelligent beings, even if at first they don't really seem that way. As puppies, they're highly receptive to being trained. But there are far too many dog owners that forget that their life can't just be all about being trained. Just like people, dogs need a balance in their lives too. It's your responsibility to find it for them. Instead of trying to train them all the time, set aside a specific amount of time throughout the day or week that's dedicated to training them. Make sure you're not mixing up their playtime or walk time with training. That way, they'll be able to focus on the commands you're teaching them and not feel overwhelmed by them. Consistent, timely training is the way to make sure all the commands actually stick at the end. Number 3, socialize. It's a dog's world. We're just living in it. Dogs are extremely social and curious, but if you're not allowing them to be social while they're a puppy, they'll never develop the right social skills to stay social when they're older. It's important to help your dog learn how to socialize with other dogs and people. It's very easy to do this too. Take them out for frequent walks. Let them sniff out other dogs, have guests over, and let them check them out too. If none of that isn't easy for you to do, enroll them into a puppy class or take them to doggy daycare. Basically anything that exposes them to more people and animals other than the ones already in your house all the time. The more they socialize, the better they'll be at fully grown dogs later on in life. Number 2, give them space. Even though puppies tend to be all up in our business all the time, they don't really like us being up in theirs. Dogs need personal space too, a lot of it. It's important to set up their own little den when they are young so they know exactly where they can go if they need space at any point in the day. There are lots of reasons your dog would want to be on their own for a while: if they've had a rough day, to rest up after a long day, to eat on their own, or simply to stay out of everyone's way for a while. If your dog has the space to get away and decompress, they'll be able to retain all the commands you've taught them and rest up enough that they won't have a cranky outburst in the middle of the day. Space promotes better mental and physical health for people and dogs, so make sure you're respecting that need so you can have the perfect dog for life. Number 1, be patient and attentive. Training your puppy is important, but not every puppy is going to be receptive to the same type of training. You could have 2 puppies from the same litter, but they'd react totally different to being trained. That's why one of the most important things you need to keep in mind is that to train your puppy to become the perfect dog, you'll have to be patient and attentive with them. Let them train at their own pace, listen to the cues they're giving you, and adjust the training accordingly. All right, what's your key tip for training puppies? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like the video, subscribe to INFORAMA, and we'll see you in the next one.